Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, TRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this role-playing game based on the popular isekai series, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time, we are going to talk about how to use items and skills. Let's start talking about items. Any item a character currently has on their person is called a possession. Possessions can range from weapons and armor to other tools, like lanterns and ropes. Having an item like this is called possessing an item. Depending on how the item is being used, they may also be classified as either equipment or belongings. However, just like with lifestyles, there are also possessions that are neither equipment or belongings. We will talk about lifestyles in a future part of this review. Now, when it comes to equipping and carrying items, normally you can use any items in your inventory. However, some can only be used if you have them equipped, and others may not have an effect in certain situations. This mainly applies to weapons and armor. Equipping an item means preparing it so that you can use it when needed. When it comes to equipment, items that are currently set on any one of the 6 distinct slots of the character, that is, right hand, left hand, head, body, support armor, and accessory, are called equipment in general. You can equip one item per slot. Concerning belongings, items other than equipment that a character walks around with are called belongings. Belongings can be placed in backpacks or the pockets of clothing and armor, but specifying where they are is not strictly necessary. There are different types of items, such as weapons, shields, suits of armor, accessories, tools, gems, potions, food, storage, that is, backpacks and such, decorations, which include clothing or very small accessories. They are mostly there for aesthetic purposes. And you have services such as food and lodging when you arrive at an inn, for example, and the lifestyles that I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned, in a future part. Every item in this rulebook is listed with various details concerning the name of the item, the type, the level, that is the minimum required character level needed to equip the item or to use it. You also have details on the weight, the equipment slot. Maybe you need to place it on both hands. It's a two-handed weapon, so it takes 2 slots when it comes to equipment slots. Or maybe it's a dual item, like for example some sort of claws or knuckles weapon. There's also the value of the item. How much does it cost to purchase that item? You also have class restrictions. Not all of the armor in these lists is possible to be equipped by certain character classes. In the case of the adventurer, because the adventurer can be potentially overpowered because of all of the skills that you can learn, they usually have the worst armor available, perhaps only matching with the wizard in terms of low defensive value, and it's usually quite expensive, so it works as a sort of balancing measure for the adventurer not to become too powerful. You're usually wearing capes, mantles, robes, and suits of padded cloth armor. Different items also come with details concerning the effects, that is, when you can use it, what happens when the wearer uses that item, what happens if you consume that item. There are also details on weapons concerning their hit modifier, that is, a modifier applied to hit checks, the attack power of the weapon, the action modifier, the range. We will talk about this in a future part of this review, when I describe combat. Suffice to say, when it comes to action modifier, it's basically a modifier applied to a character's action points when the weapon is equipped. This usually allows you to go first in combat. Concerning shields, you have details on physical defense, magic defense, action modifier, that is, a modifier applied to a character's action points as well. There are also details on armor, that is the dodge modifier, the physical defense, magic defense, and movement modifier. All of this will become clearer when I talk about combat in a future part. So you have all sorts of weapons that you need to equip in your one-handed slot or two-handed slot. For example, the iron knuckles, the mithril claws, daggers, dirks, sword breakers, fine swords, mithril swords, great swords, heavy claymores, hand axes, mithril halberds. You have the warhammer, the wizard staff, the heavy spear, chain whips, short bows, composite bows, kite shields, holy shields, reflective shields. When it comes to armor, you have things such as helmets, gold helms, robes, scale armor, mithril cloaks, plate mail, holy breastplate, mirage coat, sturdy boots, surcoats, magic capes, diamond gauntlets, rune point armor. There are also accessories such as the thieves' tools, which have a passive ability. They add 1 to the final check score when the owner disarms traps, mainly used by thieves. You also have the grimoire, which has a passive ability. Add 1 to the damage of magic attacks performed by the owner. This is for wizards only. A book filled with techniques on magic, meant for wizards of course. You have all sorts of tools, such as camping tools, antidotes, heal potions, ropes, lanterns. You have all sorts of food as well, that can either recover hit points or magic points, such as meat, vegetables, fruits. There are also gems such as emeralds, sapphires, diamonds, which add elemental properties to your attacks. There are backpacks, belt pouches. You also have details on the different lifestyles. For example, simple living, a simple lifestyle involving sleeping in a larger room. In most cases, multiple people can be in one room together. You also have the royal lifestyle. You add 30 to your maximum hit points and magic points. You live the extravagant lifestyle, typically only afforded to royalty. You can also hire the services of servants. Now, when it comes to using skills and items have priority. When the effects of skills or items would cause a contradiction with the rules, excluding the golden rule, the general practice is that the skill or item effects have priority. Also, if items and skills would contradict one another, the player character using said skill or item may choose the more beneficial option. However, the game master may still overrule this, deciding that it would be unnatural or improper to do so. So you have details on determining the target of a skill or an item, considering the timing, that is, when the effects of a particular item take place, and what happens when you use a skill or item outside of combat. There's also information on paying the cost of magic points to use the skill. There's also information on performing checks or declaring the usage of an item, how to apply and stack effects, details related to when you are affecting several targets with a single skill or item, what sorts of checks those targets need to make, how to handle effects when unique situations are created, perhaps because you are combining the effects of several items and skills. You also have information on how to use general magic, those cantrip sort of effects that have very subtle influence or interaction with the game world. You can also use them as a form of attack. Maybe an enemy is drenched, completely soaked in water, and if you use freeze, maybe that becomes a hindrance to the enemy or perhaps even a damaging effect. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about cheat rules and the action check rules. I really like how equipment and items are handled in this role-playing game. They all feel magical. You have a lot of mundane objects, pretty common tools, weapons, suits of armor, but the list of purchasable items include a variety of objects and artifacts that are truly magical, such as the mirror shield, or many of the mithril and enchanted pieces of armor. This is quite obviously a high magic setting, so if you do not find a particular magical item during the course of your adventures visiting different dangerous sites, perhaps there is some town or city where you can purchase such an item, or where you can obtain information on how to acquire such an item. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending right-through RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.